Welcome to the 1999 FAI World Gliding Championships in Bayreuth, Germany. We're going to spend 3 days at the races. Air races, that is, where some of the world's best pilots use their skills, their aircraft, and only the forces of nature to determine the champions in pure flight. They're lined up on the grid and they're under starters' orders. 122 aircraft with pilots from 24 nations, waiting for the green flag to go down at the 26th World Championships. If all these racing aircraft look the same to you, it's because of the rather limited choice in colors. White or white. There are, however, some major differences in their build.
Modern competitions are flown in 3 different classes, which is the standard class, the 50-meter class, and the open class. This here is a typical example of the standard class, a basic glider with 50-meter wingspan, no flaps or nothing which can change the airflow on the wing. This is a typical example of a 50-meter class glider. 50 meter because the wingspan is limited to 15 meter. Anything else is allowed. For example, this glider has flaps which can produce more lift. You can see it's going all the way to the fuselage, and this glider can fly much slower with the help of these flaps and much faster at a higher speed range, having much better performance. Open class gliders have no limits. Every aerodynamic help is allowed. This occurs in wingspans which are very big. This one has more than 26 meters, which is normal. The only limit open class gliders do have is a weight limit of 750 kilograms.
Thilo Hollighaus has actually designed quite a few of the 120 gliders himself. In all 3 classes, the reigning champions are in Bayreuth to defend their titles. In the open class, that's the Frenchman Gérard Lerme, the pilot of a Nimbus 4 with the call sign Gulf Gulf. Gérard has accumulated 14,000 hours in flight during his long career. He was European champion for the first time back in 1984. Jean-Marc Caillard, another member of the French team, has 5,000 hours to his credit and defends the title in the standard class with a Discus 2, call sign Echo Fox. And the defending champion in the 15-meter class is Werner Meuser. 4 days into the competition, and the German is in 4th place. Each race is called a task, so task 5 is coming up. First place in the 15-meter class currently held, though, by the American Carl Striedig, who's been piloting his Discus 2 Victor Whiskey to perfection on the first 4 days of competition. Strapped into his cockpit, he's surrounded by the US team's ground crew. Victor Whiskey will be among the first gliders to be towed to today's release altitude of 650 meters.
Sorry.
All the gliders have their tow ropes attached. The takeoff continues at a steady pace. Werner Meuser in his Whiskey Mike is next in line. These tow aircraft, 25 in number, have the capacity of getting all 122 gliders airborne in just under 1 hour. The 15-meter class has its assigned tow route going over the city of Bayreuth. Bayreuth is a city of culture and particularly of music. The name of Bayreuth is most frequently associated with the composer Richard Wagner. During the days of the championships, street musicians from all corners of the globe make sure that it's not just an aria from Wagner's Lohengrin that echoes round the market square. Back to the action in the sky, back to the race in the 15 meters class. After releasing from the tow aircraft, the gliders fly on an initial heading of west-northwest to the route's only turn point, whip round it and race back to Bayreuth Airport. A task of only 240 kilometers, that's about 150 miles, but the conditions are difficult with minimal thermal development. The sun's just not coming through the clouds enough to heat the soil and produce those invisible columns of rising air that lift the plane. The first pilot to make it back to Bayreuth Airport is Mariusz Pozniak from Poland in a time of just over 3 hours, achieving an average speed over the route of 77.8 kilometers per hour. That's about 50 miles an hour. The second pilot to land on the airport is Giorgio Galetto of Italy, less than 2 minutes behind Pozniak. And landing just 50 meters short of the Bayreuth runways is Thorsten Tacker of Germany. But he's by no means the only one forced to land on farmland around Upper Franken. 33 of the 43 pilots in the 15 meters class have to go down wherever they find a safe and suitable space to land. The Italian Thomas Gossner also falls short, or lands out, as they say.
20-30 Meter haben gefehlt.
He says he was 20 or 30 meters short. He must have flown out the last thermal too soon. He thought it would work, but it didn't.
Geht aber, es ist nicht mehr gegangen.
The results of Task 5 and Werner Meuser's 4th place should put him into the overall lead after 5 tasks or rounds. America's Carl Striedek, well, he was one of the 33 pilots who landed out and drops out of the lead. Giorgio Galetto of the strong Italian 15-meter class team is steadily moving up in the standings. Now let's have a closer look at his glider's flight over 240 kilometers in an animation based on the actual flight data taken from the flight recorder aboard the aircraft. The data collected by these recorders, or loggers as they're called, are the actual proof that the task has been completed as required. Here at the 1999 World Gliding Championships, the fate of the pilots, and indeed the organizers, is in the hands of this man, meteorologist Dr. Thomas Hafner. And he has his hands full with a wave of frontal systems moving through southeastern Germany. The grim weather forecast predicts showers and developing thunderstorms, which doesn't make the task setter's job an enviable one. In any case, all available weather information is passed on directly to the pilots during the briefing for day 6. And they don't seem to mind that parts of the contest area will get rained on as long as the forecast, calling for improvement in the late afternoon, actually holds good. But finding consensus between the 120 or so weathermen, and that means every single competition pilot, is virtually impossible. That's why Dr. Hafner's word is law, and he says it's all systems go for Task 6. Getting the gliders out of their overnight storage and assembling them is done in no time at all with the help of the support crews. Half an hour's work, certainly no more. Now that's not bad considering the wings need attaching, the controls connecting, and that each glider requires a thorough pre-flight check every time it's reassembled. Next, the gliders line up on the grid according to a draw which takes place every day. These are the grid officials with the loggers, the flight data recorders, similar to the familiar black boxes that are used on airliners. And they have revolutionized these 26th World Gliding Championships.
The gliders are on the grid, the teams are preparing the start, and we bring out the online loggers out to the grid and prepare the gliders for the online tracking system. The gliders are collecting the information for 2 minutes, and then they send all the information in the cellular network. The cellular network sends it just here to Bayreuth, and the data were collected here in Bayreuth. My job in this position is to put all the information into the internet. So we had about now 85,000 spectators in the internet. Now with more than 2 million pages was on the server. So it was very nice for us to have such a big audience.
Yes, gliding is now online and extremely high-tech. The pilots of the open class program their global positioning system for today's task. The course will lead them over 358 kilometers, that's 225 miles northwest of Bayreuth. They'll even enter the airspace of the Czech Republic. Australia's John Buchanan is currently fourth in the open class, but he's not convinced that today's weather forecast is accurate.
It's still not clear.
No, the key is the valid finish, isn't it? The key for landing occurs.
I think it's a little bit difficult than what the organisers think the meteorology is anyway. I think it will be a little bit worse to the northwest, a little bit more spreading out of the clouds, and the sun and heating is not coming through enough, and this makes it a little bit more difficult.
Where the tactics come in the picture is not necessarily flying defensive, but trying to choose the days where you should not run at too high risk, because where the return from taking a risk is not very good. In some way, it's like investments.
Jan Andersen of Denmark should know about investments. He's a banker by trade. Very much in contention going into today's task, Jan, as we've heard, is unlikely to take risks on this flight. Taking off in his open class Nimbus 4 with the call sign Alpha Alpha, Jan Andersen currently lying second overall. Enjoying the adoration of his offspring, the current leader in the open class, Holger Karoff from Germany. He and his Nimbus 4, call sign X-Ray, are also just about to be taken to the release point west of Bayreuth. Finally, bravo, bravo, John Buchanan's glider, also getting the tow. The racers are airborne, released and searching for updrafts to the west of Bayreuth. 32 aircraft, 32 pilots, a few of them accompanied by co-pilots, all choosing the most appropriate moment to get started on today's route, circling together in the first thermal, trying to get to the maximum start altitude. Now they're off and racing. Only one, Bruno Gantenbrink, the German pilot of Yankee Yankee, decides to delay his start by nearly 30 minutes. The navigation on today's route seems straightforward, with no room for shortcuts. The top pilots remain in close contact with each other. In the early lead are Alpha Alpha and Bravo Bravo, that's Jan Andersen and John Buchanan, as well as Holger Karoff's X-Ray. Final glide towards Bayreuth and the finishing line. It's Gantenbrink's Yankee Yankee coming out of nowhere, coming from behind and from above in first place. Even the spectators following the race live through the online tracking system on the many screens at the airport are taken by surprise. Yankee Yankee first across and first to touchdown. Holger Karoff's X-Ray coming in a close second, followed by the other pilots in contention for the title, Buchanan and Anderson.
It worked out okay. I think I kept up with most Europeans except one German. I think he had afterburner on.
The German squad around Holger Karoff is satisfied with the day's results. They should consolidate their position as the leading national team in the open class. And what about Jan Andersen, our banker? How did Bruno Gantenbrink manage to beat the Dane to the line?
By waiting a little before starting. This is a high risk to take if the weather gets bad, but it's a very high outcome you will get if the weather is improving, and this was the case today. So I did not dare to do it, but he did, and that was a very fine decision. So
after 6 tasks, Gantenbrink and Karoff lie first and second. Andersen is third, a mere 19 points behind Holger Karoff. After 6 tasks, then, Holger Karoff of Germany on his way to securing a medal. Gliding enthusiasts around the globe were able to follow the race in the open class by connecting themselves to the internet. The aircraft transmitted their positions in nearly real time to a server in Bayreuth, so audiences in cyberspace could virtually sit in the cockpit themselves and read the pilot's instruments. Spit and polish takes on a whole new meaning in gliding. Support crews ensure that their aircraft are absolutely spotless for the last task. It's non-stop cleaning action from assembly until takeoff. Nothing's left without washing, wiping and waxing. Something as small as a squashed fly on the leading edge of a wing will alter the airflow on it, which would affect the glider's performance. At least that's what they say. And they even have a special gadget to clean the mosquitoes off the wing, even during flight. Nicolas is saying that gliding's all about advancing faster than others in the air. That's what's important. That's why he has to apply products which make them shine so they can glide faster, so they look like new before every takeoff. Nicolas works on the crew of defending standard class world champion Jean-Marc Caillard, who's in first place prior to the last task and seems on course to retain his title. Jean-Marc's taking off at task 7, the final task of the 1999 World Gliding Championships. Behind Jean-Marc Caillard, separated from the Frenchman by less than 100 points, are 2 pilots hoping that this task will see the leader crack under pressure. The Austrian Peter Hartmann in third place gets final instructions from his team captain. Hartmann says he hopes that nothing unexpected will happen, that he won't do anything stupid, and hopes that he'll be able to hold on to third place, or even improve on it slightly. Particularly on a day like today, there's quite a lot in play. There's a chance that those in the top positions will fall back. That's what those in the lead are afraid of, and that's what the others are looking forward to. It allows them to catch up.
Vor dem fürchtet eigentlich jeder, der vorne ist, und freut sich jeder, der hinten ist, der kann nämlich wieder aufholen dadurch.
I think it's a little bit hard, a little bit of a tough ask to pull back the leader. The points, there's 85 points in it, which I think is going to be a little bit too much to peg back in one flight. Unless they falter. So basically the best I can do is try and keep my second place and hope that the leader falters.
Time for maximum concentration, even among the members of John Coote's New Zealand crew, the youngest one on the grid. John is also by far the youngest pilot, at only 23 years of age. And there's no time to relax for these crews, even after their pilots have taken off.
We'll head back to the base and basically sit there with the radios, wait for the start times, keep an eye on their progress really. Maybe keep an eye a bit on the weather in case something happens. Let the guys know if there's anything we can let them know about the weather really, if it's going to be bad coming back here.
The release point is reached. The pilots pull the release lever and separate from the tow aircraft. Now it's up to the forces of nature, which these pilots exploit during the race for the standard class. The route is 400 kilometers long. That's about 250 miles. They search for the updrafts, which they refer to as thermals. These thermals let them gain the necessary altitude to glide over considerable distances at top speeds of 200 kilometers per hour. That's faster than some small aircraft powered by engines. The pilots are always on the lookout for these thermals for opportunities to gain height. For them, height implies more speed and better distance. A glider in the open class, the Formula One among all classes, is capable of achieving a glide ratio of nearly 1 to 60. That means from a height of 1 kilometer, it can glide a horizontal distance of 60 kilometers. The standard class is somewhat more limited in that respect. These gliders are well into the 400-kilometer race. It could well come down to a photo finish. They're racing neck and neck on the final glide, making use of some allowed extra weight, 200 liters of water carried for the sole purpose of increasing their speed on the final glide. They all seem to be coming back in rapid succession as they reach the final approach to the 4 runways. Only now they're dropping the water just prior to landing, and it's touchdown for 45 out of the 47 standard class gliders at Bayreuth. It's a stunning sight. The result of the standard class, Jean-Marc Caillard did not falter. He kept his cool and has held on to his title. John Coots is second. Peter Hartmann fell back to fourth. Yet again, Jean-Marc Caillard, the 1999 FAI World Champion in the standard class.
Les consignes aujourd'hui étaient d'assurer ma place sur le podium.
He says that today's flight was all about defending his place amongst the top 3, and he wants to thank his teammates and the support crew. They worked superbly in order for him to be able to concentrate and fly with a clear mind. In the 15-meter class, it's the Italian team's turn to celebrate. They were given instructions by their coach and the team captain to risk it all on the last flight, and it paid off. Giorgio Galetto, Stefano Giorzo and Thomas Gostner not only took first, second and third on task 7, they claimed the title in the 15-meter class for Galetto. Second place for Giorzo and 5th for Gostner. It was the coach's decision to take high risks. The return was even higher. Giorgio Galetto saying because of the decision he was able to fly in significantly better meteorological conditions than most other pilots. It allowed them to get the advantage of 10 to 15